Oh, it is Beyond the Box Score time on Monday afternoon. Welcome, everybody, to Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Adam Azer here with Jacob Gibbs. We have got some heavy lifting to do. No Schneier today. Do you feel pressure, Jacob? Do you feel like you have to talk twice as much or three times as much, I guess?
No pressure. I do wonder if we might get wrapped up here with everything in like 30 minutes. We're just like, what do we do now? Do we argue about something? Do we have food takes? I don't know what to do. It's a void that I don't know if I'm ready to fill. Like, that's not my expertise.
No, I know that, when I sent out the tweet for the big topics, I'm not answering any more tight end questions. Like, this position's horrible. Kelsey's good again. Drop Andrews. We'll get into Baltimore, Buffalo. You can drop Andrews if you want. But yes, the position stinks. Let's just deal with it. I don't know. It's one of those weeks where maybe there weren't that many major storylines. Thankfully, there weren't that many major injuries. But we'll see what Jacob's got cooking as he looks inside the lab, under the hood, beyond the box score or whatever. All the advanced stuff. Beyond the box score, by the way, is Thursday. What time do you guys record that, you and Dan?
Typically in the afternoon. It's normally live on YouTube by like 5 p.m. Eastern or something like that.
All right, so check it out, youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. Injury update for tonight. Raheem Mostert not expected to play. I don't think that really changes anything, but Mostert not expected to play. It's better for HM. Don't start Wright or Wilson or anything, but that's your update here. All right, let's talk about Buffalo and Baltimore. Just a whooping. 35-10 Ravens. They gained 427 total yards, 236 total yards for the Bills. I think Josh Allen, let me double check here. He went from QB1 to like QB5 or something like that. And Lamar Jackson is now QB1 in CBS scoring, 6 point per passing touchdown lead. Oh, no, he's not. He's not. He is less than a point behind
Jayden Daniel.
Baker Mayfield.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Josh Allen is QB5. But right now, you look at the quarterback scoring on a per game basis. There are 6 quarterbacks averaging 23 or more fantasy points per game. The number 1 quarterback per game is actually Jordan Love. He's averaging 27 points per game. Then it's Mayfield, 25.5. Lamar Jackson, 25.3. Sam Darnold, 25.1. Jayden Daniels, 24.4. Josh Allen, 23.3. They've got a pretty big lead on everyone else. Anyway, I'm done talking now. Give me your Buffalo takeaways from last night's game.
It was a strange game for Buffalo. So yeah, for fantasy purposes, it's kind of the same thing with Kincaid. Actually, before we even get into player specific stuff, it's like this is the first time we've seen Buffalo not be able to kind of control the game with James Cook, right? They've kind of been doing that every other game, and in this game it didn't really work and got disjointed, and it kind of fell apart. And that's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward, because obviously defenses know that Cook is the center of the offense. But if defenses really sell out to stop the run, then
you're hearing that, right?
What is it?
It's like birds outside. It's very.
Oh yeah, I can close that if you need.
It's very peaceful.
Yeah, we're chilling. We've got to after that week. But yeah, it's like if defenses can stop the run, then like what does this offense have in terms of answers? It's basically just Khalil Shakir. No one else is really winning that much. I brought up Kincaid because they clearly featured him early in the game, and then he just kind of disappears, and that's kind of been a theme for him. I was talking to my buddy about it last night. He's like, I don't really know how he becomes the target hog that we thought he might be, where the offensive passing game does funnel through him. If he can't get open and can't win when it's not designed to him. And he's like, yeah, it feels like it just takes a long time for young tight ends to establish continuity and trust with a quarterback. He's like, when plays break down, I feel like I see Dawson Knox be the guy who finds a hole in his zone more often, or like improvs with Josh Allen and gets a target than Kincaid does. And that's what we've seen when Kelsey has been the guy for Mahomes. Is like there's some design stuff, but really so much of what Kelsey does is like the play breaks down, he wins, and him and Mahomes are on the same page on where he's going to be. And we just haven't seen that from Kincaid a whole lot. We saw that in the end zone in week 2 or 3 when he got that touchdown. That was an improv play. But for the most part, he's kind of disappeared as games go on and they get off script a little bit. So I don't know, just like continue to be a little bit worried about him. Shakir looks awesome, continues to look awesome. Like I've been posting the per route leaders, yards per route, targets per route, first downs per route through the first month of football. And he's up there, man, like with the top 10 receivers in basically all of it. And so he's playing more than he ever has. And I think he's going to continue to be somebody you can trust in fantasy. Other than that, I don't have much on the Buffalo side. Like, do you have any?
I completely agree. I completely agree. I'm not going to, reach and try to come away with major takeaways. They've had some really weird game scripts. They've had one, competitive game this year, I think, Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
So, that just kind of throws everything off. Like James Cook, I think he's only had one game with more than 11 carries. But here's, I guess, maybe one concerning thing. But again, this does go hand in hand with the game scripts. Josh Allen has thrown 30 or fewer passes in 4 consecutive games for the first time in his career, at least in the regular season. I haven't looked at the postseason, but it did happen 3 times in a row last year. So that's 3 times in a row and 4 times in a row, 30 or fewer pass attempts since Joe Brady took over as the offensive coordinator. I think it's fine for Allen, and I think it's a little bit of a weird fluky stat because 3 of their 4 games have been blowouts one way or the other. But yeah, like Allen, I'm not worried at all about Allen. He might still be QB1 if you want to call him QB2, 3, whatever. I don't care, but he's still going to be amazing. Cook, I think, is going to be amazing. The weirdest thing in this game was Ty Johnson getting that goal line touchdown. That was so weird. I don't know what the explanation was. It's not like they were in hurry up and kept the personnel on the field. I don't know what that was about, but James Cook basically had that role. Josh Allen still doesn't have a carry inside the 5-yard line this year. So I don't know. I have no explanation from that. I'm assuming that next time up, it's probably James Cook. But you know what? I think hopefully they throw a little bit more, and that will help Khalil Shakir because he is someone I am starting to trust more. He had 62 yards on 5 targets, and we just need more pass attempts. All right, so we agree. Not much going on there with the Bills. On the other side of the ball, this is where it's at, right? I made the worst trade I've ever made in my life yesterday. I traded for Patrick Mahomes, Zay Flowers, and Mark Andrews. Just
No.
an absolutely awful trade. I gave up Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins, and Breece Hall. No, I didn't give that up, but I still lost the trade. What the hell is going on here with 15 pass attempts last week, 18 pass attempts this week? I'm not going to criticize them. They're doing the right thing. Derrick Henry is on fire right now. He had 199 yards and a touchdown a week after having 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also caught 3 passes and caught a touchdown. The Bills struggle against pass-catching running backs. They did last year. So far, they do this year. But, okay, your thoughts on Andrews and Flowers. Go ahead.
It's a second straight game where Andrews has played less than half of the snaps. I will say, like, they've been really weird games. The Ravens have had a lead on 108 out of 114 offensive plays in the last 2 games, which is really unsustainable. Obviously, it's almost 100%. Not even like a tie or a lead. Actually, been leading. They've been getting leads early and just holding it the whole game. Which the first 2 games we didn't see that at all. They were only playing with the lead on 24% of their plays in the first 2 games, and so a lot of people were panicking about Henry after the first 2 games. I was like, I think it's just going to normalize, and that's kind of what we've seen. Is game to game, this stuff can be pretty random. But yeah, he looks amazing. His top speed on that run was, I think, the second highest of any player this year. Maybe it was the second highest of any running back. And you saw it, like the defensive backs had a long runway to try to catch him, and we're not getting any ground. So that's just really, really cool. Not too
for the record. I thought he was going to be a bust. I no longer think Derrick Henry is going to be a bust. I'm taking the L.
Yeah, their line has played better than I thought it would. Like Lamar's pressure rate isn't quite as high as I thought it would be. After the first couple of weeks, I was a little bit worried about it, but they've really shored things up. And Buffalo has not typically been a team that's all that easy to run on. Yeah, I think things will get better for the passing game, especially for Zay Flowers. I'm not worried because they've really funneled things through him, but the volume was just so low overall here. Yeah, I don't know. Are you worried about like the target distribution with so much of it going to Hill? I think it's just kind of a one-game thing.
I made that trade really for Zay Flowers. I thought this guy's going to have a big year. He's getting so many targets, per route run, your target share. They weren't throwing all that much, but the offense looks completely different than it did the first 2 games. And they were 0-2 in the first 2 games, and they were kind of they were very pass heavy, 41 and 34 pass attempts. They're 2-0 in their last 2 games, and they've done it behind Derrick Henry. So I think if they throw the ball 25 or more times, which isn't asking a lot, Flowers should be solid. But if they are going to be this good running the ball, then yeah, I'm worried about Flowers, and I'm obviously extremely worried about Andrews. Can you drop Mark Andrews? I can't really sit here and say that you shouldn't. It's not like Travis Kelce, so I think the only player on waivers that I might consider dropping him for is Tucker Kraft, because there might be something there with Tucker Kraft. But, Andrews probably someone I'm just going to start because that's tight end, and it's passing games in general. We'll talk about Justin Fields later. Justin Fields is averaging 19.9 fantasy points per game and 6 point per passing touchdown leagues. That makes Justin Fields QB 9 per game. Last year, if he had averaged that, he would have been QB 15, maybe even worse. So, passing is down. I'm terrified for Andrews, but Flowers, I guess I'd call him a buy low, but only if people are really freaking out, because I think that I probably just made a really bad call and a terrible decision. I'm probably wrong about Flowers, but we'll see.
I'm just a little worried about Flowers because he's still not winning intermediate or deep. It's like he has a really high target rate and everything, but it's so much just short stuff. I don't know. That was something I was worried about him coming into the league, and then he didn't disprove it anyway as a rookie. And it's just like, is he a route winner? Like, is he somebody who wins down the field, or is he just a catch and run guy, which he's really good at as a catch and run guy?
Right. If he gets enough targets, like Rashee Rice has basically been a catch and run guy. If he gets enough targets, then Flowers can do so much after the catch that, I was pretty hopeful for him. But it's really just about pass volume. I still believe in the Flowers, the player, but if Derrick Henry's going to be this good, it's just going to screw everyone. So, and I don't know what to say about Justice Hill. It just, you should have him on your bench, but he's just as likely to get you 5 fantasy points as he is, 18 or whatever. I obviously not going to have what he had last night, but 2 huge games for him, 2 bad games for him. And it's a 6 catches in 2 games, 2 catches in 2 games. Flip a coin. I have no idea. Yeah. All right, good stuff. Well, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FANTASY. You're going to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app, sign up using the bonus code FANTASY. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FANTASY when you sign up. You have nice birds outside your house. You know what I have, Jacob? I have woodpeckers, and they are awful. And you're not allowed to kill them, which I wouldn't do anyway. But they are home destroyers. Like, I hate them. I hate them so much. I hate woody woodpecker. I didn't know. They're beautiful. They're awful. They're just menaces. And that's what I get for having a house that has wood. So
yeah, we are living the peaceful life here in the Midwest.
There you go. All right, we're going to take a break. We got news and notes and some advanced metrics, and then our 4 big topics. What are our 4 big topics? Should have told you that earlier, but here we go. Packers passing game, backfield splits, the committees, people worried about Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Zach Moss, Rachaad White, the Chiefs backfield, and can we trust Justin Fields as a starter? We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
It's a team almost too good to be true.
You guys ain't ready for us.
Kick your game day off right as the Tops team tackles all the biggest headlines around the league.
Who's got 2 thumbs and loves this next segment?
Sunday mornings on CBS Sports Network.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Commiserating in the chat with people who have wood siding. Some guy's losing his insurance because it is a wood house. That sucks. Yeah, wood siding, not so great. Okay, news and notes. Aaron Rodgers playing hurt. Anthony Richardson hoping to be back next week. McCaffrey, early November, according to Ian Rappaport, hoping for early November. Nick Chubb could start practicing this week. Jonathan Taylor I don't know if they confirmed it or not, might be a high ankle sprain for Jonathan Taylor. That is bad news. And he's on the team of mine with Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers. So honestly, I don't even care. That season's over. Team sucks. And Mahomes, by the way. But honestly, in all seriousness, like the high ankle sprain really hurt Taylor. I think it was 2 years ago. He came back. He wasn't as good. He missed time. So I really hope it's not a high ankle sprain for Taylor. Andy Reid said that he would go back to Carson Steele in upcoming games. So we'll discuss that later. And wide receiver news, we're still waiting for confirmation on Rashee Rice. The fear is that it's a torn ACL. Christian Watson, he has a high ankle sprain. He could go on IR. And Dallas Goedert apparently left with an injury. He's got a bye coming up. Taysom Hill, though, left in the second quarter. I'll leave it at that for the news and notes. All right, Jacob, you are up. What advanced metrics really popped this week for you?
So I went to start with Brian Thomas Jr. He's somebody we've talked about a lot on this show. I've been super, super excited. Obviously, I just love the rookies. And he was the one who impressed me the most this preseason. And he has backed it up as like thoroughly and believably as possible during the season. He looks like he's just uncoverable. He looks to me like one of the scariest guys you could have to cover in the NFL already as a rookie. And we're seeing the offense start to funnel more looks his way. He's not just a deep ball guy. He still is being used that way a lot to clear stuff out. But yeah, I went back and watched every route that he ran this week, and he had a couple where Lawrence just missed them, and he had a couple other ones where he just didn't see him. And even with that said, he still had a really good game. He's the wide receiver 12 in fantasy points before Monday Night Football. He'll get caught by DK Metcalf, so he won't quite be top 12, but like still, that's so impressive for a rookie at the beginning of the year, who also has had some tough matchups. He also hasn't been the wide receiver 1 in routes. He's been 3rd in routes behind Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk, and we could see that shift where he's basically out there for every play. So like think about, I don't want to compare him to Nico Collins. That's not what I'm doing here, but Nico Collins last year, he had like a 70%, 75% route rate. This year it's at like 100%. And so his per route data actually hasn't changed from last year, but because he's playing so many more snaps, he has 480 receiving yards, and the next closest is like 390. He's on pace for 2,000 receiving yards, Nico Collins. And that's kind of something, the same type of effect that we see with rookies happen quite often, is they go from 50, 60, 70, 80% of the snaps and routes early on to by the end of the year, they're playing a full, game and just dominating if they're able to sustain that per route production. That's what we saw with Rashee Rice last year. And so I just wanted to start with Thomas because, like, man, he's so exciting. This is a matchup against Houston, who has a really good defense, really good pass rush, good cornerback play. I will say almost all of the production this week came against Lassiter, their second-round rookie cornerback. He was just getting toasted on the left side. When he was against Derek Stingley, he really didn't have much. I was hoping that it might be against Stingley. He was just like big boy and even Stingley out there, but no, Stingley is really, really good.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, maybe they should have moved Stingley around a little bit.
Yeah, they don't really.
Covering Gabe Davis a little bit too much. But.
Right. Drake London, I think, is somebody you keep buying low. I know you guys are frustrated with that, but his usage was really good. In a game where things kind of fell apart for Atlanta, the pressure rate was really high again for Kirk Cousins, 39%. He's been one of the most pressured quarterbacks this year, which is frustrating because I thought that line was going to be really good this year. Have they had injuries that you know of?
The Falcons?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were missing 2 starters this week. They got hurt on Sunday night last week against the Chiefs.
I thought that was right. I lose track of which line is which. I do it each week, follow the reports, and then kind of lose it because I'm just looking at too much information. Truly. But yeah, the line has kind of been a problem. And then we saw the usage for like Pitts, Bijan be frustrating in this game. Algier saw more carries than Bijan. Kyle Pitts had a 56% route participation rate, which is by far his lowest. His previous low was 74%. But Drake London did not see anything drop off. He continued to dominate in terms of underlying targets and everything. 35% target share, 50% air yardage share. Since week 1, he has a 30% target per route run rate and a 2-yard per route run rate. That's excluding that week 1 game where they didn't run a real, NFL offense to accommodate for Kirk Cousins and whatever was going on with his health. But since then, it's been like Drake London near the very top of the NFL in first read targets and everything else. So he's definitely someone I would buy low on. Are you in on that, or are you just kind of sick of him?
No, I mean, I think targets are you can talk about all the metrics in the world. Targets are the most important for wide receivers, right? Yeah. So I love that he is among the league leaders in target share. Just looking at weeks 1 through 3 weeks. Let me do weeks 2 through 4 is what I meant to do. So I'll just update it here. But even for full season, he's top 10 in target share. Looking at wide receivers, or actually this is all players with 20 or more targets. But since weeks 2 through 4, Drake London is 5th in target share. and behind Malik Neighbors, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marvin Harrison, and Diontae Johnson. So that's great. The problem with London is that he does absolutely nothing after the catch.
Well,
So
I think
yards that getting like 60 yards on a good day.
I think that he could have some big plays. He's breaking more tackles. They're using him over the middle a lot more. They're using him in the same role as Puka Nacua last year. And that's a huge change from last year where he was mostly like perimeter bound. So I do think some of those could turn into big plays in time. I think he's a better yak guy than people realize. But yeah, so far the yardage has been suppressed. I think that could improve. Overall, just like Atlanta's offense is running really cold. They were dead last in total plays, offensive plays again this week, only 51 plays. They've really struggled to convert third downs on the year. If you look at their third down percentage conversion rate to the other teams that are in the bottom 5 with them, it doesn't make any sense. Their offensive success rate is right about the league average. All the other teams are terrible. So I do think things are going to balance out for Atlanta. They didn't even have an offensive touchdown this week. I think it's just been a weird small sample size. So London in particular, I'm excited about, but even like Bijan, I know it's been frustrating, but I think he'll probably be better. But yeah, on the target note, I wanted to move to Diontae Johnson.
Oh yeah. Can I ask a question? Because
yeah,
I saw on Twitter, I think it's actually in our YouTube comments, we were talking about Bijan yesterday, and someone said, should I trade Malik Neighbors for Bijan Robinson? What would you do there?
Wow. Assuming it makes sense positionally, I think that I would do that. And I know people are going to hate that. That's not popular right now. Obviously, Malik Neighbors is the hottest name in fantasy, but that's really tough.
I think I would probably, if I really needed the running back, I think it's a pretty fair trade. Bijan's got to be better than this. I mean, come on. And he's still so involved in the passing game. And if you're saying that they haven't run a lot of plays, then I think that's actually a really important note, because they, like this game, they had the ball for like 23 and a half minutes. They scored a special teams touchdown and a defensive touchdown. That really obviously is going to hurt your play volume. Okay, go ahead. Next up, I'm sorry, you were saying?
Targets are the most important. That's the name of the game. Diontae Johnson, 14 targets per game since Andy Dalton has taken over at quarterback. Andy Dalton, weeks 3 and weeks 4, had the lowest pressure rate of any quarterback both weeks. The Panthers have the lowest pressure rate of any team this year. Their offensive line got beefed up this summer and is playing really, really well. Obviously, we've seen Dalton is playing pretty well, and we're seeing just more plays and more targets as a result. Diontae is completely dominating, 24 points per game in PPR over the past 2 games. Xavier Legette, rookie, had 10 targets this week, 91 air yards, 20 PPR points. Without Adam Thielen, I think we're going to see the target distribution just be like really concentrated on these two. I'm excited to go watch the film on what do you say, Legette or Legette? I feel like everyone says Legette.
I was saying that, but it's Legette.
That's how he pronounces it. So yeah, I don't know if that's right or not, but
you got it.
I'm gonna take his word for it. I want to watch and see if he's winning on more than just like athleticism. But I haven't got to Carolina film yet. But really encouraging underlying stuff for him. A couple Bears notes. Only 4 routes for Gerald Everett this week. And so that's really exciting that we're kind of apparently done with all of that, hopefully, where he's cutting into Cole Kmet. Because talk about like watch the tape. Cole Kmet looks amazing to me. I watch him and I'm like, this is one of the best tight ends that is in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
I know. And I think it's partially because we don't have a lot of tight ends who are playing at a high level. But as I've watched Chicago, I've been really, really frustrated with the play calling and the route designs. But the players are encouraging. Rome Odunze looks so good. He's winning in so many different ways. Keenan Allen is still like a dependable guy, and Cole Kmet's really good. And obviously DJ Moore is really good. So I think it could come together. DeAndre Swift played well, which is good. Like people have been waiting on that. And finally, the usage has been good for Swift all year. So I think
except short yardage, except goal line, because he never gets those.
Right.
They went with Roschon in this game. That is really like, I don't know what to make of the 7 catches. That was kind of out of nowhere, but obviously he's capable of being a good pass catcher. When he kind of came in the league, Swift was really good at that. And if he's going to catch passes, fine. But if not, if it's 2-3 catches a game and he's losing pretty much all the goal line work, that is a problem. But
for sure.
It was nice to see him wake up. I will say, yeah, for sure.
Speaking of losing goal line work, 2 touchdowns for Chase Brown this week was a
Boo.
huge surprise.
Yeah.
15 rushes for Brown, 15 rushes for Moss. Apparently, Moss got banged up and missed a few drives. I haven't watched that game. 58% snap rate still for Moss compared to 42% for Brown. 15 routes run for Moss, 10 for Brown. I don't know. Chase Brown has run extremely well this year.
Yes.
He does bounce things a little bit too often for my liking, and obviously he struggles in pass protection, which is why he's struggled to get on the field. But it feels like he is building momentum and playing his way into a larger role just because every time they give him the ball, he does something with it. I was not a big Chase Brown guy, but man, it's hard to deny what he's doing.
Same. I feel the same way. I still feel like they don't want him to be an every down running back. I don't think Zach Moss is going to lose his job. Zach Moss has run almost every single third down route. So he's got that. But I was trying to look up this stat. So if you give me a moment here, but Joe Burrow just hasn't been throwing. Like, it's great. It's great that Zach Moss has run like so many routes on third down. He's got 3 targets on third down. So if Joe Burrow's never going to throw to him on third down, it doesn't really matter. And I'm looking at, it's now 2 years in a row. Let's go back to 2022 of Joe Burrow not throwing to running backs on third down, being toward the very bottom in both 2023 and the first 4 weeks of 2024. We're loading here. Okay, 2022, he was in 8th. So we'll see. But, it'd be great if he would get those targets, but it's a pretty meaningless role if he's on the field almost every single third down and has 3 targets in 4 games on that down. So who would you, if you had to choose one rest of season, who would it be?
I would go with Moss. I do think, like, if the Bengals are going to be competitive, he's the one that they trust. I would be really surprised if we ever see Brown like playing third downs and playing important reps for them, just because the emphasis of this game is the passing game, or of this team is the passing game and protecting Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So Erick, the rookie tight end for Cincinnati, you might remember, we brought him up like way back in the summer as one of Dan and I's favorite like breakout tight end sleeper guys, and he continues to play more each week. His snap rate was a season high, but he didn't run a lot of routes, and so that's going to be something to monitor going forward. Is Gesicki's snap rate fell way down, but he still ran a lot more routes than All. But All still had a pretty productive game. He was targeted 4 times, caught all of them for 28 yards, and his per route data on the year is like as good or better than basically any tight end. So if we see this guy, every time you watch the broadcast, they're talking about how much Cincinnati loves this guy. If we see him eventually get a full-time role, if we see Gesicki get booted out of there, which has happened to him multiple stops in his career, I think this could be a really interesting, like, top 10 type of fantasy tight end that no one even drafted.
Yeah. Obviously disappointing for anyone who started Mike Gesicki. I think I started him in 1 or 2 leagues. Well, one of them was tight end premium, but it didn't really matter as he did nothing. All right, Erick, we'll keep an eye on him. And anything else?
Sure. Yeah. 33% target share for T. Higgins. That was the highest since 2021. So that was just kind of interesting.
You see his snap share? I don't know what happened there. Chase played 79% of the snaps. Higgins 64%.
That's interesting.
76%. Was not like that last week.
Yeah.
It was all about.
Stefon Diggs has been scoring touchdowns, but might be one of the best like sell highs in fantasy. His per route data is way down. 22% target per route run rate, even with an average depth of target of only 7.2 yards. And so that is going to make it pretty tough for him to contribute yards. That's just a really like low efficiency combination.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll get targeted more. I don't know. I don't really know why he would be targeted a whole lot more when Nico Collins is just presenting this like omniscient presence that's literally always open.
By the way, I'm looking at right now. So ESPN has their receiver metrics where they track, who's open the most.
Mm-hmm.
The top 2, this is going into week 4. So updated September 26th. Stefon Diggs had the highest open rating and Nico Collins had the second highest.
That's cool. What was this source? This is ESPN?
Yeah, they track every route of every receiver. Yeah, they have 3. They have an open rating, a catch rating, and a yak rating, and then an overall. So overall, the best receiver, I think the highest score was Stefon Diggs.
That is really cool. And I want to say on that note, we have Seth Walder from ESPN Analytics coming on Beyond the Box Score this week, leading up to week 5.
Oh, nice.
And so I'll be able to pick his brain about all of what goes into all of those scores and everything. Maybe he has some Stefon Diggs thoughts. So be sure to.
I am sorry that I was wrong. Sorry, I'll let you put that once. I was wrong. I was looking at the wrong column. So Diggs and Collins were 1 and 2 in overall rating. They're 3 and 4 in open rating. Malik Neighbors is 1. George Pickens is 2. That's going into week 4. All right. So I'm sorry. So promote that again. One sec. Go on. Go ahead.
This Thursday's episode, we have a guest on each week for this Beyond the Box Score show that Dan and I are doing, and it's going to be Seth Walder from ESPN Analytics. And so we'll be able to talk about all the open scores and all of that, and then other stuff. Like, I'm really curious to talk to him about not pre-snap motion, but motion right at the snap. Like you've probably seen the Dolphins do it.
Dontayvion Wicks did a lot of that, I believe.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. It's like arena football.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's got all that information, whereas like I don't have that available to me through True Media. That's something that's specific to ESPN. And so we'll get to talk to him about that and just like which teams are using that more and which teams are using it well.
ESPN Analytics, ESPNanalytics.com/receivers. If anybody wants to take a look at this. All right, give me one more and then we'll get on to our 4 big topics.
Sure. So Jalen Polk played a lot more. I'm giving you 2 more. Jalen Polk played a lot more, and I just think that's interesting because he hadn't been. And he led the Patriots in routes. Then the Rams on the Tutu Atwell note and pre-snap motion and all that, they completely abandoned all the 2 tight end stuff that they did last week. And so as a result, we saw Jordan Whittington with a 97% route rate, the highest on the team. Last week, it was, I think, 48%. And as a result of playing more, he got more targets. He led the team with a 28% target share. And so earlier today, I tweeted out a list of rookie wide receivers who in their first 4 games, actually just rookie players, because Brock Bowers and Sam Laporta are included in this. Rookie players who in their first 4 games averaged 20 routes per game with a 2.0 yard per route run rate or higher and a 10% first down per route run rate or higher. And the list is only 13 players long. It's like rookie season Cooper Kupp, rookie season Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, Sam Laporta, Drake London, Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson. We have 4 guys doing it this year. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey. I think he has looked amazing. And Brock Bowers. And he doesn't, Jordan Whittington didn't hit the route qualifier, but that's because he didn't play a lot in the first couple of games, but he's playing a lot more now, full-time role this past week. He would join this group if I expanded it to like 10 routes per game instead of 20. So that's just one last interesting note to leave you on because the Rams loved this guy this summer. They couldn't stop talking about him.
Yeah. And Tutu Atwell has been one of the most efficient wide receivers in football. Yards per target, I think he's second or something like that behind Jayden Reed. I think I put my minimum at like 20 targets or something like that. So, all right, we're going to take a break. I will talk about the Packers passing game. One of the notes I was going to give was that Tucker Kraft played 86% of the snaps. But we'll talk about the Packers when we come back. Which wide receiver should you get if you can choose between, say, Dobbs and Wicks? And Dobbs is 49% rostered. Wicks is 13% rostered. We'll also talk about Kareem Hunt, backfield splits, and Justin Fields. And we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. Got a take here in the chat that I saw that was really, we have a Mr. Popinski is one of our frequent commenters. That's a character from Punch Out. And then this guy said, Soda Popinski is greater than Bald Bull. And that is, I would really have to disagree with that. Bald Bull is one of the most iconic. They're all pretty iconic in Punch Out. But Bald Bull is the one who does the bull charge that goes, which is like the music or the sound you hear when you turn on the game. Bald Bull, and you have to play Bald Bull twice. And he's really hard. Soda Popinski's easy. This is a terrible take, Baba Ganoush. Terrible take.
I will say Popinski is the one that I recognize. I vaguely know what you're talking about with the bull rush and everything, but I just looked at the 2 characters and Soda is the one I recognized.
Soda Popinski is very fun. You know, yeah. I think he goes, like he laughs at you like that.
Yeah.
And when you knock him out, he puts his gloves up to his mouth like he's drinking a soda. But Bald Bull is really hard. Bald Bull is one of the first characters you play that's like, whoa, this guy, how do I beat the bull charge?
Dude, Adam equals Glass Joe. Oh,
That's
no.
not cool. Glass Joe, of course, being the first character in the game who's very, very easy to beat. All right. So let's go to the Packers passing game. That was our first topic from a variety of people on Twitter. Jordan Love, as I mentioned, he is QB1 per game. He's only played 2 games. We scored 36.2 fantasy points against the Vikings on 54 pass attempts. And he scored 20.4 fantasy points against the Eagles in week 1 on 34 pass attempts. And just keep in mind, a week ago, the Bears passing game looked great. They threw 52 passes. Just remember the Packers passing game, they threw 54, and they didn't really do that much in the first 3 quarters. They went nuts in the fourth quarter. But in general, I mean, look, Jordan, this is an offense that I would want pieces of. This is a good offense. We don't have a ton of those right now. I think the Packers are a gift to fantasy. Anyway, what's your take on the receiving core with Christian Watson out? Let's say he's going to miss a few weeks. He might end up on IR. What's your take?
The Packers are a gift to fantasy. I completely agree. I love Matt LaFleur. I love Jordan Love. They're so aggressive and will truly test every blade of grass. And so that is really, really fun and exciting for the pass catchers. I think it was a really good note to bring up how much Tucker Kraft is playing. He was somebody who I advised people for waiver wires to stash, probably one of the best stashes in fantasy football, because tight end is just this horrible position and he's playing almost every snap. And when Love gets back, he has fantasy relevancy. The first thing to say with Christian Watson is that Dontayvion Wicks played basically every snap after Watson went down. I thought it was possible that there might be some kind of rotation involving Bo Melton, because he's somebody who's played well in the past and they like him a lot. And maybe that will still happen, but he only ran 6 routes, Bo Melton. It was pretty much all Wicks. The next thing I would say is that Jayden Reed did not see his role change in any meaningful way. He didn't play any 2 receiver formations. Those are all just Wicks and Romeo Doubs. So Reed was still just the 3 receiver set guy. He ran a ton of routes in this game, but he was tied with Dobbs for 3rd in targets behind Kraft and Wicks. Crazy volume for Dontayvion Wicks in this game. 13 targets, 24% target share, 200 air yards, 35% target share. I'm going to mute myself and let you talk and close this door.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, here's the thing. So I went back, I watched all the dropbacks for Jordan Love, and Wicks might have a bit of a drops problem. He had at least 2 drops in this game, and one of the touchdowns he caught, he was wide open in the end zone, no one near him, and he almost dropped that one. So I don't really pay too much attention to drops. Even people who drop the ball a lot, it's still a fairly infrequent occurrence. But if you're gonna drop it that much, you might lose targets. So I think the gut reaction is to go out and get Wicks over Dobbs, because he had 5 more targets. He had a much bigger game, and Dobbs is kind of a little boring. So I would get Wicks. I think Dobbs is safer, though. I think Wicks has much higher ceiling, but a lower floor. I think they're both worth adding. But I would prefer Wicks to Dobbs. Jacob, do you agree? You're on mute.
I definitely agree. So I wanted to give you a list of receivers who Dontayvion Wicks is in the same range of in PPR points per route run since the start of last year, which was his rookie season. So Jayden Reed, first off, since the start of last year, this is for both of these guys, Jayden Reed has averaged more PPR points per route run than AJ Brown. Yeah, and it's
by the way, that's just his receiving totals.
Just receiving, no rushing added in. With rushing, he's up there just below Deebo Samuel as one of the most per opportunity basis, one of the most productive players in the NFL. And this is it's so crazy because it's these guys as rookies competing against prime, career DK Metcalf and stuff like that. With Reed, it's not quite as relevant because his role isn't going to change. He's not getting more routes. He saw a ton of routes in this game because they were getting blown out. But with Wicks, we might legitimately have a 90-95% route rate. And so I don't know if this will translate exactly on a per route production basis, but it's really, really interesting. So Dontayvion Wicks has averaged 0.43 PPR points per route in his career. That's the same as DK Metcalf. That's just below Devontae Adams, Chris Olave, and Jamar Chase. 0.44, 0.45 for Chase. Brian Thomas Jr., I just noticed, is a 0.49, but that's way too small.
Hey.
I'll sample size, though, to react to, of course. But yeah, Dontayvion Wicks has been really, really good. And I heard you talking about drops. Do you know what drops are the most correlated with? Targets. It's, you have to be getting open and getting targeted to drop the ball, and to be, proving that you're somebody who can get open enough to get 13 targets in a game. That's really, really impressive. And that to me is much more noteworthy than dropping the ball.
Would you drop Keenan Allen and or Rome Odunze for Wicks and or Dobbs?
No Dobbs. Yeah, you could drop Keenan for Wicks. I don't think I would drop Odunze for Wicks unless you're like really desperate for short-term help. We don't even know what the deal is with Watson. I think Odunze is so good. He's not quite as athletic and as explosive as Brian Thomas Jr., but it's the same kind of like aura when you watch him, where it's just like, that guy is giving defenses problems. That guy is scaring defenses because his routes are so crisp, and you have no idea where he's going because he has so much space that you have to account for because of how good of a route runner he is. Right. And because of his frame, like he's just, I don't know. He's so good, man.
So last thing here is Jayden Reed. I think people are going to expect a big bump maybe for him. I don't really know that's going to happen. Honestly, Watson wasn't really playing all that much. He wasn't really doing all that much. And the question for Reed is, is he, I don't necessarily believe this. Like, I would just keep him. I wouldn't trade him. He's just awesome. But is he maybe even a sell high? Because I think he's doing things that are so incredibly efficient, like 15 yards per target, leading the NFL. He's still playing. He has the highest, if not the highest, one of the highest slot rates in the NFL. He's in the slot over 80% of the time, basically 86% in week 4. He doesn't run the deepest routes, but he does get targeted downfield. But I don't know. I just feel like what he's doing is maybe unsustainable. I'm wondering if he's actually a sell high. What do you think on Reed?
I think it makes sense to look at the numbers, like the spreadsheets, as people like to say, and come to that conclusion. But man, Reed is just so freaking good that I don't agree. I don't think that it makes sense to sell him. To me, it's like kind of the Nico Collins effect, where his per target everything efficiency is like unbelievable and seems like it has to drop, but I don't know. It's an unbelievable player in one of the best offensive environments in the NFL. Amazing quarterback, amazing play caller, and they use 3 receivers a ton. There are probably going to be games where they get a lead and they just ride Josh Jacobs, but this team likes to pass. It's been like that the whole time. They pass in the red zone more than any team during the Matt LaFleur era.
And but it's changed. Aren't they using 3 receiver sets more than they were the last couple of years? Because they were 20th in 3 receiver rate. So and that's
that has something to do with Reed. Because you got to get that guy in the field.
Right. It's a good point. And so I looked before the season started, and the only player over the last 7 seasons, because that's when True Media first started recording slot rates, the only player that had a real standout season, like, wow, that was awesome, with a 70% slot rate or higher, was Tyler Boyd in 2018. He had 76 catches, over 1,000 yards, and 7 touchdowns in 14 games. There have been some other 1,000-yard guys. I mean, I guess you could say like Hunter Renfrow. No, Hunter Renfrow for 65.6% slot rate, but he had 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. But this is not a great list. I think Jayden Reed is going to smash that. He's just forget history. He's just really good. I'm going to buy into it. All right, let's go to our next big topic. And that would be, should the owners of Breece Hall, Rachaad White, Travis Etienne, and Zack Moss get out while they can before they lose more of their respective backfields? Who would you be worried about from that group of 4? Breece Hall, Rachaad White, Travis Etienne, Zack Moss.
White and Etienne. We talked about Moss already, and I do think Chase Brown is going to get more rushing work. But White had played 100% of the red zone snaps through the first 3 weeks. And then we saw this week 5 red zone touches for Bucky Irving and 0 for White. I think Bucky is just outplaying him, and we're going to slowly see more and more of Bucky in all areas. I think that he even could take passing down work from White, which is really like what we're hanging on to with White in terms of fantasy relevancy. Etienne has just not looked very good this year.
I invite you to watch his carries from yesterday.
Yeah, I haven't watched yesterday's.
Pretty impressed because I would have totally agreed with you, but actually thought he ran the ball pretty well yesterday. But that's just one game. I think the longer trend, you're right. He just hasn't really looked that good. He certainly doesn't look like a first round pick in the NFL draft,
Yeah, and Tank Bigsby has looked good. So yeah, he didn't lose a lot of playing time in week 4. Bigsby only played like 28% of the snaps or something, which I thought was strange. Did he get banged up again, or is he maybe not all the way back?
First of all, Travis Etienne apparently had a shoulder injury, but I don't look. I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything, but it seemed. I don't think he started the game. Let me see who they listed as a starter. When I first saw that game, he was on the bench, and then they said shoulder injury, and then he came in. I feel like he got benched, because Peterson said he wanted to shake things up. I could be totally wrong. He is listed as a starter, so maybe he played on the first snap. But Peterson said he wanted to shake things up after they went 0-3. So it's possible they were trying to send a message. I really hate getting into that. I don't like to be, thinking about stuff like that, locker room stuff. But I was confused by it. I didn't see any shoulder injury. And then he came in and seemed like, he played a pretty normal role. But yeah, like I am definitely worried about Etienne because Bigsby came in and worked near the goal line. So look, these guys are not getting enough work. If they don't score the touchdowns, they're going to be busts. And Rachaad White, I think, is like definitely going to be a bust. I have not a lot of hope for him. He's not good. I'm sorry. I've talked about a lot of things I've gotten wrong today. I mean, I was wrong on Derrick Henry. I just made this horrible trade for Zay Flowers. I was right about Rachaad White. I said it over and over again when they drafted Bucky Irving. I mean, I was saying, I'm not really worried about Rachaad White losing his receiving role because he's really good at that. I'm worried about him losing his rushing role because he's been basically the most inefficient running back in football the last 2 years. So that's happening. I'm terrified of that. I'd rather have Bucky Irving rest of season. Moss and Brown, one of them is going to be great if the other gets hurt. Otherwise, I think they're both flexes. Breece Hall, I'm not worried about, Jacob. It is disappointing. Maybe he won't return the value that we thought, but he's still, I think he leads the NFL. He leads all running backs in catches. That's going to change tonight. Etienne will be first, most likely, and Hall will be second. But Breece Hall is the man. To me, this is just a slow start. Braylon Allen's a bigger factor than I thought he would, and he's been really good. So if I were drafting today, how many running backs would I take ahead of Breece Hall? Barkley. Honestly, in full PPR, that might be it. Am I forgetting anyone? I wouldn't take Derrick Henry in full PPR over Breece Hall. Kamara. I'm crazy, but I would go Barkley 1, Hall 2, Kamara 3, Bijan 4, Henry 5, Kyron 6, and then we'll start talking about McCaffrey at some point. But that's probably my top 6.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I will say, like, the Jets worry me. They play so slow compared to the rest of the league. I'm not super worried about Breece. 18% target rate, target share, and his rushing efficiency is like obviously down, but so much of that is just that he's getting crushed behind the line of scrimmage so often. He has 8 yards before contact on the year, which is that's really frustrating. But other than that, his rushing efficiency looks fairly similar to last year.
I always wonder when the backup comes in and does better on a per carry basis, if the defense is playing it differently, because I remember it would happen with I can't even remember who the backup was for Saquon Barkley, but they would come in and do better than Barkley. And then you see Barkley's still a lot better than those guys. Like we're seeing it now. So I don't know. I don't know if Braylon Allen got the job and was the guy, if things would change, but it does happen. Yeah, go ahead.
Braylon does have way more yards before contact than Breece. But yeah, he also looks just more explosive, I feel like.
All right, let's go to our next. This was, I think, an easy one from King Koopa 88. The Chiefs' backfield, is Kareem Hunt a league winner? I'm going with a resounding hell no on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll give it a hell no. He looked pretty good yesterday, and they gave him a lot of work.
I don't really think he looked that good. I thought he had a 10-yard run on 1st and 15. He had a 9-yard run on 2nd and 20. And other than that, he just ran straight. He didn't do anything, in my opinion. He did not, according to True Media, he did not have an avoided tackle. It was only 14 carries, so you're not always going to get one. But I saw basically Carson Steele. I just saw a guy running straight, and his 2 best carries were in passing situations. So Heath said he looked good yesterday. You said he looked good yesterday. I'm worried you guys may have Chiefs-colored glasses because I thought Kareem Hunt did not really look good at all.
Yeah, that's fair. I think maybe I'm a good relative to expectations because I think Samaje Perine has looked pretty good too, and has probably more juice than Hunt does. He's not doing anything spectacular, but he does run really hard. I heard Dave say you wouldn't be surprised if he slows down after a few games. I would agree with that too, because this was the most explosive Hunt has looked. Last year he was hurt, but he was not running with much explosiveness. But yeah, 9 of 11 rush attempts for Hunt in the second half. I think he'll have a role on short yardage situations, but it wouldn't surprise me if they go back to Steele. It wouldn't surprise me if Steele starts the game next week.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if Clyde Edwards-Helaire starts the game next week. That's the other X factor here that I seem to be the only one who takes it seriously at all. I have no idea if he's coming back. I hope he does. And also, Pacheco's not out for the year. So, right, we've got maybe another 5 weeks, maybe, I don't even know. And they may have a bye in there as well. Yeah, they have a bye in 2 weeks. So this is probably not going to be a great situation. But if Kareem Hunt had gotten that goal line touchdown, maybe I'd feel better. I don't know what that was all about. That was like Ty Johnson scoring. Why did Samaje Perine get the goal line touchdown? Very strange. All right, next topic is from Good Boy Troy. Can we trust Justin Fields as a starter going forward? He scored 34 points against the Colts after scoring 20.4 fantasy points against the Chargers. And he is the number 9 quarterback per game in 6-point and number 7 per game in 4-point. This is Justin Fields here. And here's what you might be going, oh, well, they were trailing and he finally had to throw and he had a huge game. Well, he threw 34 pass attempts and scored 34 fantasy points against the Colts. But last week they won. They beat the Chargers in a very close back and forth game, and he threw 32 passes and he scored 20.4 fantasy points. So he actually only had 2 more pass attempts this week compared to last week, but he turned that into about 77 more yards. Sorry, doing the math in my head. 77 more yards, and plus he had 2 rushing touchdowns. Do you think Justin Fields is a starter going forward, Jacob?
I do, yeah. I've been really pleasantly surprised by what we're seeing in this offense. They're making things real easy for Fields, and he's finally getting some yak from his receivers these past couple games, which was not happening at all in the first couple. And we're seeing him run a little bit more, which is good. His scramble rate on the year is really high. He just has had such a low number of dropbacks that it hasn't resulted in a ton of rushing. And he hasn't been very efficient as a rusher, but I think that's random. I don't know. I'll just admit that I have not watched a lot of the Arthur Smith Pittsburgh Steelers show. But maybe I need to.
I did watch his snaps. I watched in preparation for this answer. I watched all of Justin Fields' dropbacks, and I was honestly pretty
bad.
I don't see guys I watch the Packers and guys are getting open. I don't really see that from the Steelers. They don't have as talented receiving core, obviously, but unfortunately they lost the starting guard for the season to a torn Achilles. But I thought the pass protection was pretty solid. You saw some bad plays from Fields, but overall I would have to give him an A- or a B+. I thought he played pretty well. And the best thing that he does in terms of the passing game is he extends plays. And I think that's a really good fit for a guy like George Pickens, who can improv a little bit. They were, in fact, Pickens dropped a touchdown, just hit him right in the hands on a play where Justin Fields got out of the pocket, extended the play, threw a nice ball into the end zone, and Pickens dropped it. It didn't matter for Fields. He scored a rushing touchdown on the next play. But I was of this mindset that we really need Russell Wilson for Pickens. And I definitely, there's no question Russell Wilson will throw more touchdowns than Justin Fields. But I think Fields can actually be good for Pickens because of that scramble ability. because it can turn into big plays downfield. We saw it last year with the Bears. I think we could see it again. I'm pretty happy with the way Fields is playing. I really am. I mean, I think he's going to be under the microscope where every time he takes a sack or fumbles or throws an interception, people are going to kill him for it, as if the other quarterbacks, like Sam Darnold, made some pretty bad decisions yesterday as well. But Justin Fields, like, people are going to kill him and they're waiting for him to fail. But I'm actually okay with it. And pass volume is my only concern as it relates to Pickens. If they can throw about 30 passes, like if you told me every week that they're going to throw 30 passes, Pickens is going to be probably a top 18 receiver for me. There are going to be games where they throw 22 or something. That's going to hurt. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give Justin Fields my seal of approval. He's playing much more conservatively. Like the air yards are way down and the completion percentage is 70%. He's never been 62%. So he's a different version, and that version's a little bit boring and not great for fantasy, but he's a must roster guy and someone that you can start in good matchups.
I think you covered it. Yeah.
I talked for 3 minutes straight. Sorry about that.
I think that was perfect.
All right, that could be it for Beyond the Box Score. How about that?
Pretty chill episode.
Yeah, man. Go out there and get a lounge chair, sit with the birds. What's the weather like? Where are you, Missouri?
I am in Kansas City. It's going to be 85 today, but we've had some really great weather. This past weekend, I went golfing, and it was like 70 degrees. Just perfect.
You golf too?
Not really. I mostly rode. Me and my brother went and just kind of rode around in a golf cart while my buddies golfed.
I wish you
could. The vibes.
I wish you were good and you could beat Dan. That would make me so happy. You could beat Dan. That'd be great. So please work on that. Anyway, Dan will be back next week. We're pumped about that. And we thank Jacob and all of you for watching and listening. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow with the waiver wire on Fantasy Football Today.